Okay, we're back. Now we're going to start entering in the information in our wheel data table. Now, something that's really important to spreadsheets. This is titled the independent data table, primarily because the other three tables, the wheel data, axle data, and distance table, they they're all referring to the information that we have up here in the independent data table. So for example, the wheel data here, the diameters, they are coming from these six sizes. So it should show 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. However, in spreadsheets, you should not do what I just did, was that I just simply entered the sizes here. The reason you don't want to do that is because spreadsheets should work. They shouldn't just show information, but they actually should allow the user to manipulate and change data and see the results of those changes. Um, you'll see more of that as we go on, but it really starts in the beginning of setting up these, what we would call dependent tables. These tables are dependent upon the data found in this independent data table. So I'm going to come back through here, highlight these, and delete those because that was not correct. What we should be doing instead is we want to set cell A8 equal to this cell right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type equals, and I'm going to click on the cell that I want to set it equal to. So I'm going to click on that cell. Its address is B2, and I'm going to then press return. I'm going to set this cell equal to C2. I'm going to set this one equal to D2, and so on and so forth. Again, excuse me. Now, it looks exactly the same, but it works very differently because now I can come up here and change this data. Let's say I wanted a wheel diameter of 30 inches, for example. Now, when I enter or press return, this automatically updates because it's linked. We're saying whatever's here, put it here. So I'm going to come back and change that to 3. But that is how we put in the different wheel diameters so that it reflects the independent data. In formula, our formula, ultimately what we're looking for here in the wheel data table is the circumferences. That's where we're headed. But what this table is going to, it kind of walks the user or the viewer through to say, well, okay, so you have these diameters. How did you arrive at the circumference? So the first thing we're going to do, kind of the stuff that we learn in math, the formula for calculating circumference is pi capital D. So that's pi diameter. Now, a trick in spreadsheets is to know that this, I'd mentioned it in an earlier video, not to click and drag this blue dot. The blue dot is actually the copy function. What I mean by that is, see, if I just click in the center of this cell and drag down, it just highlights the cells. But if I click on the blue dot and drag down, it is going to copy the contents of that cell down. So, and it actually does a little bit more than that we're going to see here in the substitute column. The substitute column are those dreaded words in math that so many people dislike, which is show your work. Here what I'm doing is I'm showing what I'm doing to arrive at the actual answer. So what I want to see here is 3.14 times 3. And in this next one, I want to see 3.14 times 4, and so on and so forth. However, when we were speaking about the fact that this is a dynamic and dependent table, if I come here and I change this to 30 and enter it, this changes the 30, but it's not reflected here. and you need it to be. Because ultimately, anytime you change independent data, any of the numbers that are associated with that should update. And here that's not happening. So I'm going to change this back to 3. Here, I'm going to delete that. And we actually have to write a formula. As I was showing earlier, we have 3.14 times 3. We have 3.14 times 4. 3.14 times 5, so on and so forth. What we have here is we have 3.14 and the times symbol showing up every time. So that's considered to be constant. The 3.14 times is constant. The 3, 4, and 5, that's a variable. So the 3.14 times is constant, shows up every time. The 3, 4, and 5 changes as our wheel diameters is changing. So that is dynamic, or what you might call variable. So the way to set up that particular formula, when you want to simply display data, not use it mathematically, but just to display that data, you're going to type in an equals, and then in quotation marks you're going to put what is the constant. So in this case it happens to be 3.14, and I'm going to hit the space bar, type the letter X, space bar, and then I'm going to close the quotes. That sets up displaying a constant. So when I press return, it gets rid of the equal signs, gets rid of the quotation marks, and simply shows whatever was inside of those quotation marks. And then if I drag that down and copy that, it's going to show it constantly. It won't change. So the constant goes inside of the quotation marks. Now, in addition to that, we not only want to show 3.14 times, but we also want to show our wheel diameters. So what we're going to do here is, after the second quote, we're going to hold the Shift key down and press the 7 key, which is the ampersand or the and symbol. So it's display what's inside of the quotes and the value that you find in cell A8. Now we're not typing the number 3. We want it to show the value of cell A8. That way, if we change this to 30, and we press return, this changes to 30, and this changes to 30. So again, it's dynamically updated when you change independent data. Okay. In addition to that, you can click on the blue dot and you can drag it down, and everything updates, and it's all dynamic. So if I come down here and change the 6 to 90, press return, that changed to 90, that changed to 90. So again, these numbers are all depending on what our numbers are up here. Now finally, the circumference column. In this column, here we actually want to do the math. We're not displaying any data, we're actually doing the math. So there's no quotes, there's no ampersands, we just do the math. Anytime you're doing math or creating formulas in a spreadsheet, starts with the equal sign. So we equals 3.14 times, which is actually Shift 8. It's the asterisk. Okay, 3.14 asterisk. X on a keyboard is the letter X. So spreadsheets don't know mathematically what to do with a letter X. On a computer, the asterisk is actually multiplication. So it's 3.14 times, and again, we're going to come over here to A8. So this time it's doing the math, and we get an answer of 9.42. So this one, for example, would be equals 3.14 times A9. This one would be 3.14 times A10. However, that didn't work because I didn't type the equal sign. So as soon as I put the equal sign in here, then go click here, it fills it in. But I typed an X, I didn't type the asterisk. So type an asterisk, click on my cell, press return, and then it does the math. Now, of course, you could simply click on this, drag your formula down, and it's going to fill in the column. Now, in addition, to stay consistent, we're going to go ahead and make all of these numbers 2 decimal places, and 15.7 happens to be one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of them, go up here, and I can either decrease the decimal places or I can increase the decimal places. And I'm going to set it to 2 decimals. When we come back in the next video, we'll be going ahead and filling out the Excel data table.